Hello, art stars. Welcome back. I hope you all had a great half term. This week we are revisiting animal anatomy, and so it'll be the first time for some of you and not the first time for some of you. Some of you might already be pretty adept with this technique. So I thought that we'd focus this session on birds. And I think birds are a really fun thing to draw. They've got beautiful features to have fun with. And what we're going to do is split our drawing in two. And on one half, I'm going to show you how to finish it up the traditional way with sort of the shading and a little bit more realism. And then the other half, we're just going to have fun with it and look at what patterns and how we can use this structure when doing something a little bit more fantastical. So let's go ahead and start. As always, I've got my reference image in front of me. You are welcome to use the same image or go and find your own bird or pterodactyl or whatever inspires you to create this piece. So I'm going to start by looking at my bird, and instead of drawing straight away my ovals of the body, I'm going to draw an X, but not an X. And remember, I'm going to go with my lightest touch here. You can always practice your strokes if you need, starting with your hardest stroke, middle stroke, and light stroke. And in your lightest stroke, you're going to do all your reference lines. But I'm going to do it a bit stronger so you guys can see. So I'm just going to start by doing one straight in the middle of my page, about the height of my whooping crane. That's the bird I've chosen. And I love the name whooping crane, and I love seabirds. I think there's something really comforting about the sound of a seabird. So we go in with our first line, just down the middle. And then my bird has its wings spread out. So I'm going to draw a horizontal line more or less where I see that the top of the wings coming across, which is almost in line with the head. And if you use your pencil, for example, I'm going to measure my height is about a little bit more than half of the spread. So if I go like this, and it's more or less there, I'm almost filling my entire page here with these two reference lines. And so now we can begin. Because of the shape of it, I'm going to start with the head instead of the body this time. If you want to go back and look at the previous anatomy video and practice the deer we did, you are welcome to. Double up on your lessons. So let's go ahead, and we've got an oval here. And the beak is going to come out of it. I love the necks that whooping cranes have. I think they're elegant like swans and create these strange S shapes in them. They're a really fun bird to draw. So we're going to go with the neck. And again, using my pencil, I'm just going to measure. And I feel like the end of the neck is 1/3 of this space. So if I divide this space into 3 sections, the end of the neck is gonna come here. So we're gonna do an oval here. And it's a bit of a bean-shaped oval, this one, because that's the shape of his neck. And then we've got the body that comes up a little bit behind him. So slightly more circular for the body here. And again, the legs are about as long as the neck and the head together. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. Check here, and yes, that's a great spot for my body to end. Very, very rough lines. And we always go and refine later. And I'm going to do a very skinny one here for the legs, and that's kind of where they start touching water. And same with the other side here, very almost symmetrical, but not quite. So that's where your middle line comes in very useful, because instead of having the legs cross exactly in the middle, I'm shifting it slightly to one side because one leg is slightly more sort of straight or less diagonal than the other one. And then a very skinny oval. And now we go to the wings. So what we're going to do for the wings, instead of drawing a big oval for them, I'm going to draw two skinny ovals for where, if you think of his wing as an arm, where his bone structure would be for the arm, and then the wings all sort of the feathers go off of that arm. So that's going to be our reference line. So I've got two of them going up this way, and then if you think of this as an elbow, this part's going up. So all the way to the top of my reference line, and then all the way across. And same on the other side, and we can see the beak crosses the wing, so that's a little extra reference for me there that I can use to guide my structure. Okay, and all the way across. And so here we've got just the bare bones of what our bird is going to look like. And now we can come in and slowly refine our lines. So I'm going to put in a reference here for more or less where the eye is, and I can see it's like 1/3 of the face. So again, using my middle line, I'm going to come off it a little bit and draw the eye just there. It's kind of in line with the ending of the top of his beak. Lovely. And we're going to come in and start strengthening these beak lines. And from the beak lines, we can start doing some of the reference of our shading. What, for example, here I've got a beautiful spot of red that I'm just kind of going to mark out, and the brown on the top, just so I remember and give myself a bit better an idea. And we come in and start joining. And remember, when you have something that is in front of another thing, it's great to continue that line. So along my neck here, I might rub out this bottom line, but I'm going to keep this line going here through my body to get that sense of it being the backwards part of him and not the part connected to the neck. A bit of perspective. And you can just fade it off slightly, and same on the other edge. So here, again, where our circles collapse together, we can see here comes the jawline. So I'm not going to rub out all of this. I'm going to keep my line up a little bit past that middle reference line, and then take my neck down again. So, and I'm going to start rubbing out some of these lines. And that immediately starts looking cleaner, doesn't it? So let's see. I'm going to go off into the wings here, I think. And from now on, I'm going to work just on this side of my bird. And I'm going to leave the other one with the skeleton. And if I look at my picture, the wings come and flick up a little bit and then curve downward. They're not exactly symmetrical. And they come up about halfway. And you might want to be doing these in your medium pressure. Not the lightest, but not super hard either. And I'd say that, for example, in mine, because the feathers are dark and I know I'm going to come over and accent that later. So after I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 feathers, 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 is a bit shorter. And then I've got almost like a straight edge of the other feathers coming through. And it's gonna end more or less here. So I just did a little dot to see where I want that to finish. And I start doing little L's. Until my reference spot, and I can see that here it gets a little bit more diagonal and shorter. So from here I'm going to start changing into this direction. Okay, and we've got the outer structure ready, and so now I'm just going to finish some of this sort of layering of feathers. And I am going to start with reinforcing this part here, because that's almost like a straight edge. Continue the beak a bit. Come in, and it's almost triangular. I'm gonna come in a bit closer here so I've got a chance to open up slightly. And there's like a bit of a shaded part here that follows along. And then we get smaller layers of feathers. And these are a little bit more symmetrical. So I'm just gonna go, one starts about here. And pay attention when you're doing feathers, what is laying on top of what. And then these are a bit smaller. Womp womp. And then we come in with our second layer. And that starts, there's like a teeny bit here connecting to this one, and then so it's a good way to do these, not finishing the trace here, and then when you come in and add your next one, that automatically connects and gives you that sense of layered. And one more row. And these get bigger and a bit longer. Okay, and there we go. Now I'm gonna come into the body and do almost like little seashells. So it's very similar to the feathers we just did. And I'm gonna start here at the neck where I can see a bit of texture. And I'm not gonna draw all of it in, just where I feel it's gonna give me a bit of added oomph. Maybe to define a bit of these edges. And come in and rub out some of my reference lines. There we go. And now we're going to start working it into the leg. There we go. And now I'm just going to come in and shade this super quickly. And we're going to move on to the second side. You, of course, take as long as you need to shade in, because it's an incredible process that makes the world of difference. Now, for the beak, I've started with my dark and turned it into medium as I both go down into the lower beak and towards the edge. Now we're going to try and do our red spot in a medium shade, and then try and do our lightest one for the brown here at the back. So. And I'm going to use smudging to help me here and make even more of a difference between the beak and the red. And when you know it's an area that you're going to smudge, or you want a really light shading to it, you can use a circular motion and drawing circles in circles. And that helps you not have a really, visible stroke going in one direction or another. So I'm going to do a little bit more here, just so we've got room to play with the darkness of the brown. And in our lightest, we're going to come in and do this brown. And if you find that it needs more differing, you can always come back and darken the red even more. There we go. Now, I'm going to do just a tiny bit more shading here. I want to move on to the other side. And now for the other side, I really want you to just have fun. Close your eyes for a second and think, what do you want to see that you can't see in this picture? Is it the way the wind moves through the feathers? Is it the structure that's going on underneath? Is it the patterns that make up the atoms in this bird structure? Is it abstract? You can really take it anywhere, but I just want to show you what I'm going to do is I love that idea of seeing the wind sort of invisibly move through the bird. So I'm going to use tiny strokes and swirls to kind of represent that, moving throughout my bird. So I'm going to start here. And I'm going to start with lots of little lines following that structure of the wing. Because then it'll give me an outline to work with. And again, if you need to come and sort of get rid of some of these lines, it's best to do it before you start doing really small, intricate patterns. So I'm going to come ahead and get rid of some of that. Of course, in mine, you're always going to see it a little bit because I've come in and drawn these very, very strongly so that you can see. But on yours, if you've done your light touch, it should rub away fine and become invisible. So again, I'm going with my darkest right now, but you could choose to go with whatever intensity of darkness you want to go with. So I think it would come around. I'm gonna come around my body now. And I'm gonna try and keep it to that middle line, but they can cross over slightly. And that'll help give that idea of one realistic thing turning into something very abstract or surreal or whatever intention it is that you want to take this bird into. And as I'm getting to certain sections, I'm rubbing out my reference lines, but I'm trying not to do it too early so that I still have that sort of idea of what the structure is. And now I can come in and get rid of these final two lines here and mark my wind away. And so for me, it goes almost between the feathers rather than on the inside of the feathers. So I'm almost going to outline through that. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is my shortest. And then we move on to this straight part here, and I might still need to do a couple of reference lines or dots just to help me figure out where this is going. I reckon that once the wind gets to here, it would like curl in. And there you have it, our half realistic, half kind of figurative bird. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. If you feel your pattern needs something and you want to bring color to it, feel free to bring in a bit of paint or some colored pencils, whatever is inspiring you, and I will see you for our chat. Okay, bye-bye, art stars.